everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast, bringing you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody!
So, yes, we are kind of getting back into the swing of things. Had a little couple snafus. Had Courtney's photo still up from last week. Forgot to unmute for like the first 2 notes of the song, but we'll get there.
Yes.
And audio podcast listeners might not even notice. So
there we go.
So yes, we have a lot of news this week. That all came up like in the past 2 days. So why don't we get right into that? All right. So first up, D&D Celebration 2020 is an online event showcasing D&D products alongside RPG panels. Primary products they're going to be talking about are Rime of the Frostmaiden and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And they've got a whole slew of panels. Seems like at least Wizards is making an outward show of listening to the community, as there are panels for BIPOC or BIPOC creators, on accessibility, on I had them all written down, but a bunch of stuff sort of like that. So looking outward to, there may have been one about mental health in D&D or RPGs, I think. And there is some crossover with PAX Online, which is also happening right now. So a lot of panels going on related to video games, tabletop games, and all that stuff. So D&D Celebration 2020 starts Friday, September 18th, and will run through Sunday, September 20th.
Nice.
Courtney, would you like to take the next piece of news?
Yeah, so the D&D adventure book, Icewind Dale, Rise of the Frostmaiden, did release yesterday, September 15th. The Dice and Miscellany set is still delayed until September 29th, so that'll still be coming in, that's 2 weeks from now,
About
right?
2 weeks, yeah. 2 weeks.
Like, I can math, right? 2 weeks? Yeah.
So this past week we got a new trailer for World of Warcraft Shadowlands as part of their Afterlives series, focusing on the Ardenweald, which is sort of kind of like the Feywild Afterlife type thing, focusing on druids and the Emerald Dream. So spoilers, we see one of the wild gods, Ursoc, sort of die in the afterlife. So wild gods would be reborn and released back into the natural world, and due to events that are happening in the Ardenweald, souls cannot get reborn, and thus they have to make a sacrifice so that that region can continue. So very sad. Very sad.
Okay.
The final faction, Revendreth, comes this week, so that is basically Ravenloft, it's all vampires and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, still no. I don't know if we've got an official word as to when Shadowlands releases, but coming soon.
I haven't seen anything.
So
yeah. Next up, Super Mario 3D All Stars is still coming out in 2 days. Wow, yeah, on this Friday. Which, reminder, it's just going to be that compilation of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. I've also heard that there is a pre-order bonus for this. From what I've been able to find online, it's just a bunch of like sticker pack. But still, cool, cute little bonus. And that'll be retailing for $60 on Friday. Yes. Which, if you break it down, it's 3 games and $20 a piece. So
yes, yeah,
not bad.
So a little bit more information came out about the Xbox Series consoles, which are the next gen, quote unquote, next gen consoles coming out in November. The Series, so the tweet was a little confusing and has become kind of a meme. So this is a clarification and an explanation of what exactly that means. So the Series S, which is the smaller sort of budget digital-only version, will be compatible with 1S and 360 games, or backwards compatible with those, but not such games that were enhanced for the X series or 1X console.
Okay.
In order to play those games, you will have to have a Series X.
Okay. But you'll still be able to play any Xbox One games, it's just not the enhanced graphic.
As if you can play them on the 1S, and they are not specifically enhanced for 1X, you will be able to play them on the 1S.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Additionally, so, and this will be covered as well in the next headline, but GameStop will be doing the Xbox All Access payment plans for the new systems.
Yeah, they're also going to be doing their usual seasonal layaway for these new systems. They're also going to be doing installment plans and rent to own on these new systems as well. So I think that's very interesting. I know when I worked at GameStop, we didn't have many people who did a lot of layaway, but those that we did, it was really nice so that they were able to do that. So I like that they're offering that availability.
Now, since we got a price for the new Xboxes, it seems that yes, Sony was in fact waiting in the wings for Xbox to make the first move. PlayStation 5 will launch November 12th, so 2 days after the Xbox, at $499 for the sort of Pro Deluxe full version, and $399 for the digital-only version. So this is causing a lot of stir, but basically, according to Sony, there aren't any differences in console capability between the two versions, aside from one has a disk drive and the other one does not. So, which is unlike Xbox, where the Series S has it won't be fully capable of the stuff that the Series X is capable of. So, yes.
So also, Ubisoft is announcing Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, is going to be returning to current gen platforms this holiday season in honor of the film's 10th anniversary. I don't like to think about that film being 10 years old. But I know, I think, Sean, you said you're excited about it. I know I'm actually looking
missed
forward
it because so this is a big deal because it got pulled from stores due to licensing issues. So it hasn't been available like for at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So
no. I know I'm excited about it. That'll be cool.
Yeah. We got a season 2 trailer for The Mandalorian. New season debuts October 30th on Disney Plus.
Nice.
So looks like there's going to be some Jedi involvement in the new season. So that'll be a little interesting.
Nice. And I'm actually really excited about this last bit. Animaniacs is coming back for a new series with the same returning voice actors of the original, and is coming to Hulu on November 20th. I'm really excited because my mom didn't let me watch Animaniacs as a kid growing up. So now I get to experience that as an adult and completely understand why my mother wouldn't let me watch it. I think there was a Pinky and the Brain segment that she was just like, yeah, no, you're not watching that. But yeah, I think that's all we have for our quickfire news this week.
That rounds out our headlines. So we're going to switch things up a bit. We're going to do quest log beforehand, just because we have some pretty meaty topics.
Yeah.
So I'd want to get through that first. So now, on to quest log. So quest log is where we talk about what sort of sort of geeky stuff is on our agenda and on our to-do list. Oh, we lost Courtney. Oh, dear. Hang on. I got a thing for that. Oh. There we go. She's back. She's coming back. I forgot that my solo what is it? Scene does my webcam specifically and not through Discord. So but until Courtney comes back, I'll just continue on. I'll talk about what I'm doing. So I worked on the sort of article for Jamora that I was going to do for The Tempest. Didn't finish it. Still working on it. Again, writing is very hard for me. So did not get through it. I also, due to a whole bunch of stuff that happened this past week, I was not able to color any Chapter 1 comics. So I got to strike that one from the record. Unfortunately, I don't have like the what is it, Price is Right sort of failure soundbite.
Too bad.
That said, I did finish Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered, sort of. We're going to talk about that in the topics because I have some rants that I need to get out. So
as I would say, you have some feelings.
I do. So next up, I think is try and finish up the Isle of Armor storyline for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I don't know if I really have much left for it.
Are you in
I
it?
finished the dojo. So
okay.
I don't know if I actually have anything left for that, or if it's just wandering around and catching.
Yeah, did Pokemon. You leveled up the Pokemon that they gave you?
No.
Oh, then yeah, you need to the Pokemon they gave you. You need to do the trial and go up all the steps and up all the layers, and then you get to evolve it. So.
Okay, but is there like story involved in that, or is it just?
Yes, there is some story involved in that. Yes. Also, you have to find all the Diglets if you haven't already.
I mean, sure, whatever.
It's fun. It's really fun.
This is really just basically Sean has been kind of starved for sort of new video game content.
Yeah.
Since a lot of the stuff that's come out has been ports.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
Yeah.
Realistically, what will likely happen is I will start playing one of the Mario games when it comes out on Friday. So, Courtney, what is on your to-do list?
So, it's mostly a continuation this week. My mom got married this past weekend, and I started back at work this week, so I'm trying to get back into my groove, but all of these things are good. I was able to start my new farm on Stardew Valley in multiplayer. I actually did it on Switch instead of PC because I like to multitask, and I can't really watch TV and play Stardew on my laptop at the same time. So I set that up, and we did I chose the forest farm.
An excellent choice.
But yeah, so that's all set up. So hey, something completed on my list. I still have to finish 3 houses, and I still have to start Trooperbrook. I'm hoping that sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind with my Switch. So I'm hoping that if I have it out and I'm playing on it and playing Stardew, when I'm not playing Stardew, I'll be playing other stuff. So that's kind of my plan going forward, is to just keep working on those. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Getting back into work and school and everything is.
Yes. Yeah.
Love this time of year.
And then I suppose just some stream stuff that I need to start getting set up is like figuring out what day to. So so one game stream a week is going to come back in October.
Nice.
So I just have to figure out which day and what works for everybody's schedules. So, and this is going to be sort of an ongoing poll for fans of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast and the 8-Bit Adventures comics and all of our content and everything, is whether I should play like one of the Super Mario games, because that'll be fun for, you know, when I start in October, or if I should do a special like spooky game for the month of October because of Halloween.
Sean, you just answered your own question.
I mean, well, I say spooky, but like it would likely be Bloodstained, which is
because you're not going through Luigi's Mansion again.
No, it's just it's too much.
No, that was rough some nights watching that.
This would be so Bloodstained is kind of a Castlevania spin-off spiritual successor series from the original creators, but is named such because Capcom won't give up the rights. Or Konami, whoever made Bloodstained or whoever made Castlevania won't give up the rights, but also won't do anything with it. So, yeah. So, or something else. I mean, there's also plenty of like old school Nintendo, Super Nintendo games that I could play.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So look out for that poll.
Yeah, that is what's going on with Questlog. So on to our main topic section. Okay, so a couple of sort of smaller things to chat about before we. So we want to do a deep dive into Rime of the Frostmaiden because I picked it up on D&D Beyond. Basically skimmed through the whole entirety of the book yesterday during my free time. But first, so number one, so Mulan, right? Disney. It was theorized that Disney made a lot of the changes that they did to make it more appealing for Chinese audiences. It is absolutely tanking in China. So it seems like Western audiences don't like it.
Yeah, it also doesn't have Chinese subtitles or anything like that on Disney Plus. So,
I don't know if Disney Plus is available. This is theater. It's in theaters in China.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, but it's absolutely tanking. And I mean, also the fact that like the entire administrative team is white is also kind of not a good look for what is essentially they wanted to make some kind of like Chinese martial arts film. I mean, from what it originally was, which like that's fine, but
it's originally a folk tale about like Fa Mulan and how she saved China, but like yeah.
But yeah, and there's basically there are a number of issues with the film that it seems to irritate. You can find a demographic, like just pick a demographic that it would be targeted towards, and that demographic finds things to be irritated about it. And so it's just, yeah, it's kind of going the route of like a lot of the other live action Disney films. So, which is disappointing. And the fact that there's the weird, like, you can pay $30 to unlock it on Disney Plus early or something.
Yeah, it's Premier
on Disney Plus.
It's Premier access to be able to get it, and the reason why they think they have that price up so high is thinking about how much you'd spend on movie tickets in the theater. Excuse me.
Yeah.
For your whole family.
And that's basically what it is.
As
but it's
opposed to. Yeah, no, it's a steep pay-per-view, and
I mean, so Megan and I were talking, and we were kind of glad that we didn't sign up for the like a Regal Club, or the Regal. Basically, it's like
that
Movie Pass, but for Regal
that they were gonna do. Yeah.
So where like you could get to, if you basically went to like 2 movies a month, like the card paid for itself, and it's like a membership where you pay the fee, you can go to as many movies as you want.
I remember us talking about that. Yeah, I remember us talking about that and like wanting. Like, I was thinking about doing that as well.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
And that was like...
I feel like that's absolutely
talking
appropriate.
About that around the holiday season. And now it's like, oh, kind of glad now that we didn't do that.
Yeah.
We also said the Academy Awards are going to be real interesting this year. Because like it'll be what Academy Awards, like what movies, like you have to think about like what actually came out in theaters, and it's like, I guess technically they could count Mulan since it was released, somewhere. Bill and Ted's excellent, the third movie.
Yes.
And I don't know, but
and then you got to count. You can count the stuff like Onward that was pre-COVID, and I use quotation marks in that very liberally because.
Well, I mean, it did come out before then. It just it's COVID happened like during its run, and so they were like,
yes.
So that would count.
Yeah, like I know my mom and I were the last,
like the second Trolls movie, where I don't think it did come out in theaters, and it's like, so are you not going to count that?
Yeah, I don't know if
it's a feature-length film, so who knows?
I don't know, because it's not like, I mean, because like Sundance Film Festival's movies also get like are eligible for them, but I don't know if I don't know what their criteria is, I guess, to have something qualified to be nominated.
I'm sure the Academy is looking at their requirements and scratching their heads on what to do.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Really? One moment.
We get to hear Sean answer his home phone. Aw, man. I thought you were going to say Domino's Pizza.
No. Who knows? It might be Sincarfa, which has a bunch of like solar farms around the area that got us to sign up for it. And then we realized, this doesn't actually save us any money. It costs us more money.
Yeah.
Because the way it works is, so we have solar panels on our house. So the solar panels like give us essentially a credit on our electric bill. But what these guys do is they generate power and then send credits to our electric company. But then we have to pay them for what was generated.
Yeah, that's weird.
So the difference is like with us sending credits directly to the electric company, I can plan and like I can pay a certain amount each month because we're always running like a credit. Whereas with these guys, like I don't know how much they're going to produce.
Yep.
So like in the summer months where normally I'd be cutting back because we don't have to pay as much.
Yep.
Instead I'm paying more.
Yeah.
And then it's, we'll pay less in the wintertime. And it's like, well,
yeah,
but no, it was a whole thing. They're not happy that we want to cancel anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
but that's why this is now. So the topic section has become a free-form little discussion thing where who knows what's going to happen. Because now we can actually allot time for weird tangents like this. So we have down here Xbox specifics. Courtney, did you add that in?
Yes, I did, and it was basically more of the GameStop offering. So we already had actually covered that.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Yeah.
So but one thing is, so for folks who might be wondering, like for this holiday season, and you're able to buy a console because I don't want to make assumptions. There are many folks who might not be able to buy a console, or there might be folks such as me who are not interested in either of these consoles. Of which console to buy. And I guess it boils down to several factors. Is number one, like exclusives, which looking at the exclusives, like
PlayStation has better exclusives.
The actual exclusives. Let me stipulate that. Because on the showcase that PlayStation showed today, there were only like 2 games that were actually exclusive because many of them are also coming out on PC.
Okay.
Like Final Fantasy 16 or Deathloop. Or Call of Duty will be not a PlayStation exclusive because they like money.
But God of War is still an exclusive. Like I love all of their single
God of
player
War, yes,
campaigns.
will be a PlayStation exclusive. Spider-Man Miles Morales will be a PlayStation exclusive, but pretty much everything else is coming out elsewhere. Like Fortnite was on there. Like Fortnite's on phones.
Everywhere.
So, well, not at the moment, but you know.
Hey, mobile gaming is gaming.
But yeah, like everything else will be coming to PC as well. So like, it's not really like
it's a
Sony tried to say like
console
exclusive, which it means it won't be coming out of the consoles. But like, I mean, you've got like everybody's got. If you're watching this, you probably have a computer, so
yeah.
And in some cases might actually give you better performance than the PlayStation will.
Yeah, I think actually that's something that kind of got me about the PlayStation is it's this new thing, but it's only a terabyte hard drive. Like, and that doesn't fit too many games for.
Well, and here's the other thing is, so you'll probably want the disk drive then, because from what I've seen of developers for PlayStation is due to a lot of the textures, voiceover work, soundtrack, like music takes up a lot of memory space. And voice work specifically, just because there's so much that goes into it. Yeah, those games are huge.
They are.
1 terabyte's going to fill up pretty fast.
It's like when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. Like, people had room for that and Spider-Man on their PlayStations, and that's it. If they were lucky to have a terabyte system.
Yeah.
Because if they had the 500 gig system, they had room for Red Dead. That's it.
Yeah.
So
one of the things to look at is, so the Series X and the disc version of the PlayStation 5 are going to be the same price.
Yep.
So the digital only versions, the 1S is going to be cheaper by about $100. And there's the the financing option, which if you're going to do, if you don't mind getting the premium Game Pass, then, you come out ahead. But then you also have to take a look at performance and exclusives, which, Xbox doesn't have great exclusives either.
A lot of good racing game exclusives, but not really.
Yeah.
Not enough for me to want to do it. Like, yeah. Like, I would want an Xbox for the cross-play availability on more stuff, but
that is true. That is something to consider. Is that
because Sony doesn't.
Who knows
play
if
well
Sony
with
will be a little more amenable to opening stuff up for cross-play, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
I think whether that happens or not is going to be after sales numbers come out for this holiday season for the new consoles.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee that if Sony gets trounced by people saying, I mean, I'm not really looking for a $500 console and the 1S is cheaper, I'll go with the 1S. And that's where Microsoft kind of makes all their money. They may say, oh, well, we got to sweeten the deal and offer cross-play then.
Yeah. I mean, because they have it for some of their games. So
it's largely if the developer is able to kind of strong arm Sony into forcing them to allow crossplay.
Yeah.
So
like I know
really
Fortnite
popular,
did that.
So like if you're Epic or who makes Rocket League?
I don't know, but I know
Rocket League has crossplay, I believe.
I think so.
Whereas like, I mean, if you're Concerned Ape, no, you cannot strong arm Sony into allowing crossplay for or setting it up for multiplayer. So yeah.
No, you can. It's single device, but that does allow for multiplayer. But yeah, it doesn't allow for that crossplay.
It's still restricted by platform. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I normally I try and I mean, as we get closer, like maybe there'll be more information that comes out and it'll be, a little clearer. Just because, especially being, I mean, I say like being a parent now, but you know, like Theo's not gonna, he's not gonna get a console for Christmas. So he's only 2 months old, so normally, but in the past, like in college, I would make recommendations, and you know, like I've been on panels before to talk about, you know, upcoming next gen consoles.
Yeah.
It as a way to help people determine which one they should buy. And really, you know, that's kind of the criteria. Is I don't know if I can really make a recommendation yet. Just because we also don't really know a lot about what will be coming at launch.
Yeah.
Because again, about half the games that they had in PlayStation Showcase aren't going to be available until 2021. So, yeah, this may be a thing where I don't know if people do pick it up at launch. You know,
yeah.
like I think it might be waiting. Is your best bet?
That this might be a year for Xbox to take over, and lead the sales for the holiday season with consoles.
Maybe.
Because of their wide net of different financing options. Like that's just more accessibility for people.
Yeah.
It's easier to plan and budget payments than it is to have to drop it all at once.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know Sony fans are touting that their console is more powerful and it has more features, whereas, you know, Microsoft seems to have the price factor for more casual gamers that aren't necessarily looking for 4K output.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But I think that comes down to a personal choice.
I think so. I mean, the other consideration is, again, like exclusives. There's not really a whole lot on either side as of this moment, because the next God of War game isn't going to be out until 2021 or so.
Yeah.
And that, even if that's a full game, it might, I don't know if it'll be an expansion or something.
Did we see anything about if the PlayStation 5 would be any amount of backwards compatible? I know
I'm sure that information's out there. I haven't. I don't
with that information, I know just launched like a few hours ago for the price. So,
you know what? Let's just look up real quick. Will PS5 be? I think
because I know that the fact that you could still play Xbox 360 games on the newest consoles that are out right now has always been a big thing.
It will be compatible with PS4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that nothing has been compatible with PlayStation 3 or previous.
No.
Like that they have out now. So.
No.
That's.
Unless, well, if it's available on PlayStation Plus, but.
Yes. But again, in that case, you have to get it and download it, and it takes up memory and takes up room.
But again, you're better off, as evidenced by one Mr. York. You're better off playing those games on Steam because they're likely on that platform, and you can get things like mods for texture packs and stuff.
Yep.
Like all the Final Fantasy games.
Hey, speaking of Final Fantasy,
that's a great segue.
You have feelings.
So Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered is kind of a mediocre game that was made worse by its final boss fight. Where it is you fight 3 bosses in succession without any break in between. The first boss is a 3-part boss fight, is a 3-phase boss fight.
Wow.
And then basically, and so you fight, so the first final boss is called the Meteor Parasite. So for those that don't know, and this is, little spoilers or whatever, but it's a GameCube game. So
yeah, it's been out for long enough. Like,
so the overall story is like there are these crystals that are in each town that hold this toxic fog called miasma at bay. And your job as a caravaneer is you go out on a caravan with this chalice that has a little crystal in it to protect yourself and your friends. And you go around to these various myrrh trees to collect myrrh, which is this substance formed by these trees to bring back to your crystal to replenish its energy. And in doing so, you have to fight through monsters and fight a boss monster that protects the tree or guards the tree or whatever. And that's the game. And the game is just, you just keep doing that. And there's all sorts of random events. And then you have like a diary that all these random events get added to. Now, the game makes it seem like that the diary is just like a fun little record of stuff. It doesn't tell you at all that at the end of the game, when you are on final boss number 2, is that in order to fight that boss, you have to go through essentially a trivia round of all the events that happen in your diary, all the events that are recorded in your diary. And that for every answer, so for one thing, for every answer that you get wrong, you have to go through a series of very difficult, like, minion trash fights. And you also lose memories. And if you lose, and if your memories are reduced by a certain number, you just auto die and you lose. So that's a bad mechanic.
Yeah.
Then you get into these 2 bosses. So you fight the Meteor Parasite first. And it turns out the Meteor Parasite is the source of all the miasma. So, like, you could have you killed that off. No more miasma. It'll eventually clear out. Show's over. You can go home. Be a celebrated hero. You could just end the story there, Square Enix. But they didn't.
But what fun would that be?
Because it's a Japanese video game company, they have to introduce, like, 6 other elements of... So it's sort of what, like, our former co-host Josh York loves about games like Xenogears, where, like, everything goes off the rails into, like, you know, fighting gods and stuff like that. This game does that, but it puts no story to it, and it just has it for the final boss fight, where they introduce, like, 2 other completely unrelated sort of, like, god monsters that are based on memories and, like, feed on memories. And so and they're, like, exceedingly difficult. And it got to the point where I was like, well, I could just keep equipping Phoenix Downs to auto-res my character if I get, like, 1 shot in combat. But there's nothing left for this game, and I'm on the final boss fight, and I don't really care if I have the prestige of saying, like, I beat the final boss when, like, I did everything else in the game that was worth doing. So it's like, it was completely unsatisfying. In such a way that, like, Metroid Other M was unsatisfying. It was that bad. So yeah. Yeah. And then coupled with the whole multiplayer issues, like, I would say if you were on the fence about Crystal Chronicles Remastered, don't bother. Just, you know, like, there are lots of better multiplayer RPGs out there, like tabletop games, of which we're going to talk about one right now.
Yeah.
That was
we're going to talk about all sorts of amazing things that are happening in Rime of the Frostmaiden. And so, Sean, you were telling me and our friend of the show Heather last night a bunch of these different things. So why don't you kick it off, because you have gotten the chance to fully read it.
Yeah, so Rime of the Frostmaiden is the latest adventure by Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
It is billed as a horror-themed setting, focusing a lot on isolation, paranoia, cold, winter, darkness, and so, like, it's not necessary. So they also, you know, Chris Perkins talked about how sort of films like The Shining, John Carpenter's The Thing, Alien were influences for this adventure. And it's like, you can kind of see elements of that, but it's not, like, directly, like, you're not going to look at a portion of this adventure and be like, oh yeah, this is The Thing, or this is The Shining. So much as, like, it plays on themes from those films and those genres. So basically, you are in a region known as Icewind Dale, which is sort of way up north, up in the tundra and the Arctic. It's miserable. It's cold most of the year. What's happening right now is there is a lesser goddess of basically winter's misery. She is on the run from other evil deities because she was in a pact with them, and basically how she wanted to run things irritated them. So she was in an alliance. So this lesser deity is called Oral, who is the Frostmaiden. She was in an alliance with like the goddess of stormy seas known as Umberlee. And, together the two of them like wreaked havoc and everything, but Umberlee got upset when Oral kept freezing the seas solid.
That takes a lot to do.
Causes problems for boats and everything, and like sinks ships, and so causes massive destruction and misery and everything, which like should have been good for the two of them. But Umberlee is a very chaotic deity and likes change, and so freezing everything confined her aspect. And since they are much more powerful deities, Umberlee mustered up the forces of other ones and basically chased Oral and cast her out, so that she's kind of in hiding on the natural world. However, Oral hates mortals. And so basically is kind of like a god that does not want to have anything to do with all of these like insignificant little pests running around, and wants to drive them out. And so is basically using all of her power to make this region as miserable and as cold as possible, to either drive out all of the mortal creatures or kill them, because, that's fine too. And being a divine being will not stop until this goal is achieved. Because if she has to, do it over the course of centuries to do it, she's got the time.
She just wants to be left alone.
Sort of, but in the like, I will destroy everything sense. So for fans of Supernatural, very much like an Amara type thing of like, not quite like I am the void. I hate just things, and so I'm going to destroy everything so that it's just the void and I have peace and quiet again. But this is, I could see elements where like folks could be sympathetic. At the same time, however, it's sympathetic to a being that like would not hesitate to crush you underneath her heel. Just because you are irritating by existing. So that's kind of the overarching story. Now within that, there are lots of little subplots on basically sort of survival in this region. A lot of other weird stuff going on. There's like a subplot of there is this substance called Chardolin, which is this, it's crystals, but they're malleable, which like, number one, isn't how crystals work.
No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
They're like magical metal crystals that readily accept magic. But like, because they readily accept magic, they are easily corrupted by demons. And so most of the Chardolin that you find in the adventure has been corrupted by like infernal energy, and thus like corrupts people who touch it. So that's where a lot of this like paranoia slash quote unquote madness comes into play. Where folks are coming into contact with this and then sort of being sent into sort of like murderous fugue states. Kind of a thing. There is, so gonna get into spoiler territory. So I gave basically stuff that like has been built, like you can find it on the book, on the outside cover and everything. So if you are interested in playing in this adventure and you don't want to be spoiled on things related to it, you've been warned.
Now, oh, sorry, Sean. I guess I should go then.
I mean, that's your choice.
No.
I'm happily to talk about it myself. But so there is a kingdom of Darger, which are deep dwarves that have been sort of subjugated and corrupted by mind flayers. That
nobody likes
basically
mind flayers.
Their king is a warlock who is pledged to what he thinks is like some kind of mind flayer like entity, but in reality is what is it? Asmodeus, the Archduke of Hell, who
that's
is
a bit of a difference.
Manipulating this dwarf into doing his bidding in order to create a stronghold of devils and like a kingdom of devils in the natural world. Basically like opening portals to hell and everything.
Yeah.
But this king does not know that. However, he is being driven by an obsession with this Chardalin material as a method for constructing a dragon, like a mechanical dragon, that he is going to use to destroy Icewind Dale and then conquer Icewind Dale. So basically the first sort of 3 chapters deal with this lead up, and I guess sort of through even like chapter 5 is dealing with this lead up to this siege on the sort of the Darger King's keep, and then pivoting to right when you start to storm the castle is the dragon takes off on its flight plan. And now you have to decide, is do we continue with the siege to basically defeat the king, or do we have to break off our assault and race back as quickly as possible to try and save some of these communities? Because they will be wiped out.
Oh.
Yes. And it tells you like what percentage of the community is wiped out. Like if there are any key figures that die in the battle.
Like it's gonna happen. And it's just a matter of like, do you decrease what happens, or
yeah, it's about mitigating damage. And one of
that's
the
very
sad parts is that you will not be able to save every community, is because the dragon is faster than you, so you have to decide, do we essentially sacrifice the first community that it goes after and try and stop it at the second one?
Yeah.
Or try and let it go, or do we let it go through a couple communities and then make a stand at like this one? In which, I mean, you're basically saying, well, do we consciously leave some, like, ensure that some people die?
Yeah.
And it's a tough choice, and I feel like that's part of the horror. It's a more subtle type thing, because that is a heavy burden.
Yeah, but so Sean, please tell me, because I do not know, has something like that been done in previous adventures that you've experienced? Like
I'm not
kind
sure.
of like, it's gonna hit the fan whether you like it or not, it's happening, but how much does it happen?
I mean, technically Tomb of Annihilation may have had that with the death curse, where if you took too long, like, people will just start dying off and can't be resurrected.
Yeah.
I mean, Ravenloft might have something like that, or Curse of Strahd, rather.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there were other tough choices like that in previous editions, but like I don't think it's been a thing in 5e.
Yeah. Because I think that's a very
and essentially not to that
degree
scale,
of overtness,
where it's basically you have to decide whether to sacrifice entire communities, which is another point to bring up. So speaking of the communities and sacrifices, so each of the the communities all form this region known as 10 towns, because it's 10 towns that make up the region.
Makes sense. That tracks with different area namings.
So in order to make some sort of appeasement to Oral, each community in 10 towns like makes a sacrifice. Now, some sacrifice food, which means that basically with food being as scarce as it is, that it makes basically the communities go hungry in order to keep up with these sacrifices.
Yep.
Sometimes it's warmth. So basically, like, there's like one night of the month where you don't keep fires going at night, and like nobody keeps fires going. So now it's a matter of
just like cuddle puddles all across the towns.
Yeah, you have to rely on body warmth, which difficult because Oral keeps like her never-ending winter keeps the average temperature at somewhere between minus 50 to minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit before wind chill, and before blizzard conditions.
Before wind chill.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are not nice numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So relying on body warmth in that kind of temperature, you might find some folks frozen over. The next morning. The third method is just humanoid sacrifice. Is that they pick somebody by random lots, and somehow they're, they might be like thrown into a lake, like a frozen lake, or cast out into the wilderness or something. And like it's not usually like they're put upon an altar and killed off.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
it is releasing them to the winter, typically.
Okay. So kind of like what my cousin and I are gonna do to my uncle if he ever snaps. We just tie him to a tree out in the woods, and nature takes over.
Oh, jeez.
That has been discussed in family discussions, and it is his wishes to leave him to nature.
Oh boy. So you have that element as well.
But yeah,
right?
So yeah, wow.
So that's another sort of horror element.
Yeah.
Kind of like Wicker Man. So you've got like communities that are like, oh, we must give them up for the sacrifice. You have, one of the initial adventures is you're tracking a serial killer who is going around killing off people that paid to get out of the lotteries for sacrifice. We're acting on behalf of the Frostmaiden to like claim the lives of these people that like sought to cheat their way out of being an offering.
Everybody has to play fair.
Yeah. So yeah, some other elements. So
those are some very, very interesting.
And this is kind of where another sort of horror element enters in. Is each player is given a secret. The instructions are to not divulge this. That it's not recommended to divulge the secret to the other characters. Sometimes you might not want to. Sometimes you might not know. Sometimes like it might just be something that's innocuous, but like whatever.
Like I have
one of them, for example, is like you're just a really big, like huge fan of Drizzt, and like you have a piece of his cloak. Like you have a little like scrap from his cloak, and it's like your most prized possession.
You're a
so, like that one, like
boy.
There's not really any drawback to that, but like to say like, oh, what is your tell me your secrets. It's just like, I really like Drizzt.
Yeah.
Like, whereas other ones, and you notice this, like might be you are secretly a doppelganger.
Yeah, that thing. That like, see, so I usually look through my Google headlines like on my mobile. Pretty much, every day I say, what's new. And when I saw something that said like this is going to change D&D play, I was like, okay, sure, let's see what it says about it. Doppelgangers.
Yes. So it's
what?
Because like unless you reveal your true form, nobody else knows.
Yeah.
One of the complicating things is that doppelgangers in D&D are sort of these like weird alien shapeshifters that are kind of serial killers. Like they delight in tormenting other people. So who knows? Like you might be like, it doesn't really talk about having that intent. So
like
it may
the
be that like
doppelganger
it's The
in
Witcher,
Witcher.
and like
Yeah.
you could be just a doppelganger that's like, yeah, I don't really like doing that, so I'm just gonna kind of do my own thing or whatever. But like if anybody finds out, they're gonna be like, oh, hey, doppelganger, and just kill you.
Yeah.
Because it's like The Witcher. So another one is you were infected by a Slod. So Slod are these like frog-like creatures of chaos that inhabit planes like Pandemonium. And what they do is they reproduce by basically like through attacks. They inject eggs into people.
So it's an alien situation. Oh,
it is 100% an alien situation, because the secret is at some point in the next 2 months, a Slod tadpole bursts out of your chest, killing you.
No. I had nightmares.
And in fact,
had to be
the
tucked
adventure
into bed with a nightlight for 2 weeks after watching Alien.
Has little sidebars as recommendations for dramatic moments as to when it might be appropriate for a Slod tadpole to burst out of somebody's chest.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, Sean, you know that whole consent in gaming thing? Yeah. No, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. Another one so another secret is the Littlest Yeti, which is you were raised by Yetis.
Aww.
Which, are basically like big sort of giant-sized abominable snowmen. That wander around and are not above eating hapless mountain travelers. And so, like, for whatever reason, they took you in as one of their own so that you can speak their language and you have advantage on checks to influence them. So, like, that comes up a couple times in the adventure. So it's like, if a player has the Littlest Yeti secret, like, they might be able to convince the Yetis to not eat them or dismember them.
Yeah. That's interesting. But Sean, can we leave this on a happy note? I would really love to leave this on a happy note tonight and talk about the dogs.
We can talk about the dogs. I do have a happy note that's like an absurd happy note.
Okay, like, absurd happy note and then the dogs.
That was touted to have been one of the elements of horror, and I think nobody's taking it that way. Okay. But first, so basically, because you're up in the tundra, the main form of fast transportation is via sled with sled dogs. So sled dogs are featured heavily in this adventure, where either other NPCs use them to get around, or the characters can use them to get around. It's basically put out there that like all sled dogs in the adventure are friendly, like to the characters, regardless of which faction they serve. So it's just they're just friendly. So in the adventure, all doggos are good doggos. Now,
yay!
All wolfies are not good wolfies, but all doggos are good.
Yes.
So that is something to keep in mind.
That is a clear distinction that must be made.
Also, just pointing it out there, D&D does pass the "Can you pet the dog" test. So, for those that don't know, that is a test for video games, where if a video game has a dog, the question is, can you pet the dog? If the answer is yes, I mean, that just makes the game better. If the answer is no, why not?
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, there may be things where like dogs and sometimes cats are just like little side set dressing type stuff where they don't really affect anything in the game at all. But the question is just, can you pet the dog? So it's become kind of this meme of game developers will put in cats and dogs, and the only purpose they have in the game is that you can pet them.
Hey, that's not a bad feature.
No, it's not.
That's a very good feature.
Yeah.
Because being able to pet the dog is important. You can even do that in Stardew. Come on.
So, The final thing. There is a crashed spaceship. It is a Nautiloid, which is a Mind Flayer spaceship that crashed from another world. It is inhabited by creatures known as Ceramorphs and Squidlings. These are gnomes that went through the process of ceramorphosis, which is what Mind Flayers use to create more Mind Flayers. It is kind of a horrifying process in which a Mind Flayer, again, with the tadpoles, tadpole is inserted into a creature's brain, and then it consumes the brain and then basically transforms the creature violently into a Mind Flayer. Now, usually, all of the person's previous self memories and everything are gone because they no longer have their own brain.
Connected to the hive mind?
And it is connected to the hive mind.
Okay.
If not, weird stuff happens. But however, with gnomes, the process goes wrong, and they turn into basically tiny little Mind Flayers, except that they retain their sense of self, their alignment, their personality, and everything. They're just now like little Mind Flayers that were previously gnomes, and they're just like, oh yeah, that I'm just a Mind Flayer now, I guess. Yeah, whatever. Unlike the traditionally lawful evil alignment, is they retain their previous alignment. So you might have chaotic good little Mind Flayers running around.
That's adorable. Yeah.
Now Squidlings are gnomes that did not retain their sense of self or whatever, and are basically little like gnomish toddler Mind Flayers that they kind of have big oversized tentacles and can't move around very well. Their impulse control and reasoning ability are that of toddlers.
Oh.
So it's basically they just want to go around and they might want to help, they might want to play, they might just want to say feed me and try and eat your brain because they still feed on brains. But they're adorable. So
please tell me there's artwork of them.
Oh yes, there's artwork of both. For the gnomish Ceramorphs, it's basically tiny gnome-sized Mind Flayers with gnomish proportions, wielding laser guns because they're from space. So it's like a spaceship with laser cannons, and that the players, if they become friends with the Ceramorphs, might get pew pew laser guns.
Oh
yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, no, I can absolutely see how everyone is not taking this seriously.
Yeah. There's kind of a mega dungeon with this formerly floating city from this ancient empire of mages. That might be another case where it's sort of the thing or a creature stalking you because there's a gnoll vampire that stalks this mega dungeon full of sort of defunct super powerful artifacts that are 10th level magic. And mages seeking to plunder its depths. And that's kind of the last portion of the adventure.
Okay.
It's also, you can face Oral as part of the adventure. You do not have to. You don't have to. Now, if you don't defeat her in one portion earlier in the adventure, this might be another thing where the sort of monster element shows up, is that she does show up while you're trekking through this sort of mega dungeon, this lost city, with the intent on finding you and killing you, in probably horrifically gruesome, winter-themed ways.
She becomes a kid that plucks the legs off of spiders before she kills them.
Particularly beautiful characters might get flash frozen to present, sort of like Medusa, on how they're oh, yeah, this person's really good looking. They might make a fine statue for my garden, and she might do that. She might flash freeze you, or she might throw a glacier at you, or something. So yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
But sort of but the last sort of the happy thing I want to touch on was the Ceramorphs and the Squidlings, where like they're kind of meant to be horrifying because they're mind flayers, but like they're gnomes.
They is small.
They're very small. And they're not evil. So there's that.
I think that's the best part.
Yeah.
Is that they're just straight up like not evil. Yeah. And so you could have one that has like the regular personality of like Happy the Dwarf from Snow White. And he just looks like a mind flayer.
In fact, so there's two Ceramorphs. They are chaotic neutral.
Yep.
So kind of Jester? Mind Flayer Jester in tiny form? A little bit? Jester kind of rides the line between chaotic good and chaotic neutral.
Oh, yeah, she does.
So, yeah.
It's just so cute.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a way to play them.
Now, my question is, are these playable are these playable creatures? As PCs?
No.
Okay.
No, they're not.
Oh, that's sad.
I mean, well, they're not statted up as a type of species to play as.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, like, I mean, it's D&D, so do what you want, right? I mean, you know, you could play as an awakened dog, you know.
You could play as a hat, and you constantly cast Mage Hand to hold yourself up.
I mean, you could,
or something like that. I've seen a whole bunch of different memes of like outrageous characters. I mean, you could also just do 3 kobolds in an overcoat.
Yes. So, that is a thing. So, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
And we'll end on this note. So that is a thing in this adventure. It's not explicitly called out, sort of like as being crucial to the adventure or whatever, but it's sort of in the back where it's talking about. So kobolds show up in a couple different places. Now, for those that don't know, it might be in the chat. Kobolds are basically these little sort of halfling gnome-sized creatures that are like little dragons. So in typical folklore is they are sort of earth pixie spirits or whatever, that are basically like gnomes. Their name is related to cobalt, which is a metal that we can mine, and is related to the name, related to mining and earth and stuff like that. So kobolds are kind of basically these little like pest-like creatures. They're fond of traps and pranks and tricks. They're kind of yappy, and they're little dragon-like creatures that's like little humanoid dragon type creatures.
For any fans of Critical Role, it was Spurt was a kobold.
Yes.
Chris Perkins' guest character, who got a whole, I don't know how long on, but it was extremely short.
I believe it was 20 minutes.
Yes.
20 minutes of screen time, I believe.
But yeah, there's a nice picture on the Critical Role wiki of Spurt.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So kobolds show up a bunch as like little minions or whatever. Oftentimes, so typically
less than 25 minutes, yeah.
Typically in a D&D campaign, kobolds are like kind of, you know, like monsters for first level characters to fight. And it's usually like, oh, caves infested by kobolds, go kill them and drive them out. Get rid of them. We don't care how you do it. In this game, like in this adventure, there are elements of that, but it stresses that like that you could negotiate with them. Like it makes very clear of like if players try to negotiate with things. So it sounds like Wizards or at least the writers of this adventure are kind of paying attention a little bit to the community on that. There has been this tonal shift a bit from sort of adventurers are these murder hobo mercenaries for hire that just like go in and just like annihilate everything, and then want to be paid. With in this modern day and age, players tend to like try and recruit anything and everything that they can get their hands on because they're tiny, cute little pets.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the size. Frost Giant, such a small boy. We will recruit him.
Yeah.
Tracks. So one of the things
considering.
that is a lot of the kobolds are like, look, it's miserable. We just want someplace warm. We're willing to work. Just give us someplace safe to stay. We promise we won't cause trouble. And so one of the things that you can do is, because of how bundled up everyone is, because it's so cold, is you often, if you are unfamiliar with people's voices or their mannerisms, you can't tell who's walking around town because they're bundled up, like even more than Ralphie from Christmas Story is like, they're bundled with like, 6 or 7 layers of coats and everything because it's that cold. So you never know who might be 3 kobolds in a trench coat. And in fact,
just
there is a sidebar.
Is 3 kobolds.
There's a sidebar where they talk about that with some artwork, where it says like, players can make like an insight check to try and see, if someone is secretly, acting kind of a bit off and look through the ruse and see, they might see like a little kobold head sticking out of the midsection or whatever. So the fact that it's been an ongoing running gag and that Wizards has now officially put it in a book. One thing to be clear is they're not statted up as its own monster, which personally I don't think it needs to be. It's just 3 kobolds in a trench coat. People wanted, like, there's weird stacking goblins in Tomb of Annihilation and they wanted that, but it's like, it doesn't need to be. So yeah. All in all, it's a big book. There's a lot in it, but I think what is in it is it's kind of, so the first half of the book is a very like open-ended, like characters can kind of do whatever quest they want sort of a thing. And then it pushes you toward a singular narrative. There are elements where it's a little disjointed. Like Auril doesn't see, like Auril's very much like a background figure, it seems, until you get to like certain points in the story. As opposed to like what we're doing with, or what we're trying to do with Tales of Jamora, where in the Kraken's Wake arc, like it's either you're fighting the Kraken or you are fighting agents of the Kraken, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to go fight these dudes who are trying to capitalize on stuff that's happening, but aren't necessarily related in any way to the problem Auril's causing.
Yeah.
So also, evil druids, a lot of evil druids, awakening animals and getting them to do their bidding. So,
very nice.
So yeah, all in all, I think I actually, there are some things that I was a little disappointed with. I think the secrets were a little bit of a disappointment just because they don't have a lot of them. And some of them range from like, it gives you something horrible to, like, I'm a Driz fanboy. But it's got some really neat stuff in there. And it's got some, they're not necessarily revolutionary ideas, but the fact that they explain how you might do certain activities like fishing, just add a little bit of flavor that you can do.
Nice.
So all in all, I might recommend picking it up. Either in digital format on D&D Beyond or the physical book. I know I was kind of on the fence, just because of a lot of the sort of poor decision-making Wizards has made over the past year. But I did pick it up on D&D Beyond, so it was a little cheaper, this and that. I think I'm okay with purchasing the physical copy, especially the special edition. So I'll go see if Nico up at Purple Dragon Games has that, and pick that up.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to take a look on Beyond and just see everything that's in there. So
yeah,
take a look for myself.
Yep. So. All right. So that is going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I know we ran a little bit longer, but it's still shorter than what our usual podcasts were previously. So if you want to find more stuff from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find comics, podcasts, artwork, streams, and more. If you would like to support all that content, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. That can provide you with a couple different benefits, such as like behind the scenes content, getting comics early, and other cool stuff. A discount on merch, that's one. And you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. So thank you to all of our current patrons. Every little bit helps. And if there's enough Patreon money coming in each month, I can print out like a full-size battle map for Tales of Jamora. Like once a month, basically. Because those are expensive. So alternatively, if you prefer to support here on Twitch, please consider becoming a subscriber here on Twitch. It is September, so there are discounts on sponsorship or subscriptions.
Yeah.
Trying to work towards unlocking some more emote slots here on Twitch. So currently working toward the goal of 15 sub points. And at that point, we can unlock a new emote. So
nice.
We can unlock stuff like the emotes we see here in the chat. And
Cute.
Finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we are done. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.
Hey, everybody.